Let's talk now about real estate riches. Over the last 30 years, I have bought, sold, rented, leased, and developed more than $100 million worth of real estate, including entire residential subdivisions, in one case more than 330 homes from raw land to completed homes, all sold, industrial parks, office buildings, shopping centers, and more than $20 million worth of self-storage projects. So I know a little bit about real estate. I've made and lost an enormous amount of money, made the money doing things right, lost the money by ignoring some of the things that I'm going to teach you. We talked earlier about buy 'em, fix 'em, and the basic principles there. And I want to go into that in a little bit more detail because your start in becoming financially independent in real estate will probably be starting small and growing from there. Now, the basic principle of turning ideas into big money is to seize every money-building opportunity and work with it until the idea fits your purpose, decide on the steps necessary to make it work, and then proceed to do it as soon as possible. Always the key is to take action. Start small and grow later. Real estate is an art as well as a science. There are hundreds of millions and billions and even trillions of dollars tied up in real estate of all kinds. Millions of Americans have become wealthy as a result of real estate ownership, starting with nothing, and so can you, but you must learn how. Now, here is the rule for successful real estate investment. Write it down, burn it into the outside of your checkbook. Here it is. You make your profit when you buy real estate, not when you sell. This is a secret that all successful real estate investors know, and all unsuccessful real estate investors do not. You make your profits when you buy real estate, not when you sell it. You make it by buying right in the first place. When you sell, you simply realize the profit that you made when you bought it properly the first time. Many people lose money in real estate because they forget this vital law. They think that they're going to make money on the sale. This is incorrect. You make money on real estate by buying properly. Never forget this rule. Since when you start buying real estate, you will probably buy a residential property, either for yourself or, best of all, for investment. So let's talk about buying a share of stock in a neighborhood and the things you need to look for. Let's look now at some of the factors affecting the choice of a neighborhood for you to invest in. Every one of these is important. One mistake in this area can lead to your buying a property that does not increase in value or, even worse, declines in value over time. In every city, growing or declining, there are areas and neighborhoods that are also growing or declining. The patterns of growth and decline in a city are largely determined by the growth pattern of the city out from the central core. The growth pattern, in turn, is largely determined by the topography, or the existence of rivers, hills, valleys, oceans, and swamps, which channel the growth in different directions. The basic growth pattern of a city is what is called the expanding pie pattern. Imagine your city as a pie cut up into wedges. As the city expands, the type of development in each slice tends to expand with it from the city core. Get any city map and see how closely this applies. If a slice starts off as industrial when the city is small, it will continue to expand outward as industrial. If it starts as high-quality residential, the outer edges of the slice will continue expanding as high-quality residential. Gradually, however, a core or dying area will develop around the central business district as people, businesses, and commercial development expand toward the suburbs. It's possible for you to find real estate bargains in these declining areas, but remember, you are always purchasing the future earning power of the property. In a way, you are buying a share in the stock of that neighborhood, and your first job is to determine that the neighborhood is holding or increasing in appeal and attractiveness as time passes. You don't want to buy a property that's selling at a good price, but unfortunately, its price and value are going to be lower next year and lower still the year after, and lower still the year after that. So here are the 10 factors to analyze in looking at any neighborhood. 1. Look at the location of the neighborhood with respect to other land uses. For example, industrial or commercial areas like shopping centers or bodies of water like swamps and rivers. If you're thinking of purchasing residential property, you want to be sure that it's not immediately adjacent to industrial or commercial property. If you're thinking of purchasing commercial property, be sure that there is room for population growth and density in the surrounding area. Cities tend to grow outward along the main lines of growth from the city center or core. These main freeways or highways are like arteries, and the main cross streets are like large veins that carry traffic in and out of the city. When purchasing residential property, you want to be close but not too close to major roadways and freeways. When purchasing industrial and commercial property, you want to be as close as possible to the main arteries and accessible to main cross streets and freeways. The second factor to analyze in looking at a neighborhood is the land use regulations, restrictions, and zoning. Is it single-family zoning? Is it duplex zoning? Is it multiple-family zoning? Can you subdivide the property? Are you allowed to renovate or change the property in any way? It's vital that you know what the land restrictions are. Often, a real estate investor will buy a home on a large lot after finding that the lot can be subdivided and half the property can be sold separately. As a result, he ends up owning the house at almost no cost at all. The third factor to consider is the age of the neighborhood and the general condition of homes in that area. Remember, when you buy a house, you must buy it looking at it through the eyes of the person who's going to purchase it or rent it from you. What does the whole neighborhood look like? Is the neighborhood improving or declining in overall appearance or condition? If it's declining, it's very hard to halt the decline. The fourth factor in evaluating a neighborhood is the types of people who live in the neighborhood, the demographics of the population. What are the general ages, levels of education, occupation, and lifestyle? Is it a family neighborhood? Is it a single-person neighborhood? Is it a neighborhood with young people or old people? Is it a working class, middle class, or upper middle class neighborhood? The fifth factor to consider is the type of buildings and other improvements in the area and their condition. Remember that you might purchase a home or renovate a house that looks terrific, but if it is next to a house that is collapsing, this is going to decrease the value of your house. The sixth factor to look for is transportation corridors in and out and transportation facilities available to the people living in the neighborhood. What is the access and egress to the neighborhood and to the house that you live in? Is it easy or difficult to get into the neighborhood where you live or where you are thinking of investing? Is it easy to get onto the main roadways? The rule is that you always want to be close but not too close to main arteries. The seventh factor to look for is the nearness to schools, churches, shopping centers, amusement places, and jobs. People with families like to live near schools and they like to live near churches. People like to live near shopping centers, but not too close. They like to live near open areas and parks and places of recreation and amusement. People consider a home to be valuable if these facilities are easily accessible from where they live. The eighth factor to consider is the level of taxes and other burdens. Some areas have extremely high taxes that make them undesirable to live in and difficult to sell, holding constant for all other factors. The ninth factor to consider in a neighborhood is the utilities, conveniences, and services. Some areas don't have underground sewage. You have to have septic tanks. Some areas have above-ground electricity that makes the neighborhood unsightly. Check out the utilities, the conveniences, and the services. How often is garbage collected? Is it done by the city or is it private? And what do all these services cost? The 10th factor to consider is noise levels. Are there any special hazards or nuisances in the area? Are there any dumps or landfills or creek beds or railway tracks? Are there any freeways nearby? Some friends of mine bought a house a few years ago. The real estate agent phoned them and told them that there was a terrific bargain available, but he could only show it to them at 10 a.m. in the morning or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Would they be available? Well, they were excited about the possibility and arranged to see the home the following afternoon. It looked beautiful. It had everything that they were looking for, and it was considerably cheaper than other homes that they had looked at in the last few weeks. They immediately put in an offer, which was accepted, and a few weeks later they closed on the house and moved in. They unpacked their furniture, quite pleased with themselves and their purchase. It was only then did they find out that behind the backyard, in a gully that was invisible to the home, ran a railway track. There was a major Amtrak train that came roaring down that track every hour and a half from first thing in the morning until late at night. They learned, to their dismay, that the 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock times had been scheduled because they were well before and well after the train schedule. They were stuck with a house that shook every time the train went by. As soon as they went to bed that night, the train roared down the track. They came straight out of bed into the air, but it was too late. They had closed the deal, and they owned the house. So be careful. The surest way to evaluate a neighborhood is to walk through it and get a feel for it personally. Listen for noise levels and look at pollution levels. Talk to the corner grocer, the person at the gas station, and especially the other real estate agents with homes for sale in that area. Learn everything you can, just as though you were going to buy a house, move in, and live there for 20 years. It's essential because the profitability of any home you buy will depend upon someone moving in for the long term. Once you've found a solid neighborhood that you have confidence in a good city that has a strong, diversified economy, it's time to begin looking for a house to buy and fix up. This leads to the rule of 100 that I mentioned earlier. Expect to look at 100 houses before you are knowledgeable enough to make an offer on even one of them. Be patient. Do your homework. Don't rush. The time you take to look at your first 100 houses will pay you back over and over again in the months and years ahead. Shop carefully and look at everything available within the price range you are thinking about, and even outside that price range. Don't allow real estate agents to rush you into a decision by telling you that a house is priced below market and that there are other buyers preparing to make offers if you don't act. This is just standard stuff. Be patient until your research tells you that you have found the right property for you. Spend as much time researching the investment as you spend earning the money for the investment. Let me repeat that. Always spend as much time researching the investment before you make it as you spend earning the money for the investment in the first place. The next thing to consider is the value to put on a piece of property. There are 3 methods to evaluate or appraise real estate, and in some way you should know and take all 3 of these ways into consideration. The first way to evaluate real estate is called the market approach. In its simplest terms, this is determined by how much the property is selling for on a per square foot basis compared to other properties with similar size, features, and location. You can conduct your own market appraisal by looking at the sales prices of other homes in the area. To use the market approach, you simply compare sales prices, not listing prices, in that area in recent months on a per square foot basis. The simplest way of all is to simply take the number of square feet in the house, divide it into the price, and calculate the cost per square foot of the home down to the penny. There are many other factors that go into the evaluation of a house, but cost per square foot, all things considered, is usually the most accurate. I have found that real estate agents and sellers of homes intensely dislike a buyer who insists on knowing the exact square footage of a property and then determining its value on that basis. They prefer that you value the property based on many other factors, very few of which are accurate indicators. Remember, if a feature does not add to the value of a house, or if you cannot sell the property for more money because of that feature, do not pay extra for it. Real estate agents and property owners will try to convince you that large lot size or landscaping or new paint or a pool are all factors that increase the desirability and therefore the value and price of the house. However, these are what are called hygiene factors versus motivators. A hygiene factor is a feature that if you don't have it, it is a demotivator and it decreases the value. But if the home does include this hygiene factor, it is not a motivator and it does not increase the value. The absence of a hygiene factor, like cleanliness or proper landscaping or paint, reduces values, but the presence of a hygiene factor does not increase the value, it merely maintains it. I've been out with real estate agents that point out the lot size and they say, This is a big lot, and therefore the house is worth more money. No, I point out, it is not worth any more because it has a big lot. A big lot is simply a feature that doesn't add value, and certainly doesn't add value when you come to resell the house. The second method of evaluating or appraising a house or any piece of real estate is called the cost approach. How much would it cost to build this building on a flat piece of land based on today's construction costs? How do you find out what construction costs would be for a particular property? It's simple. Talk to builders. Talk to contractors. Find out how much it costs per square foot to build a home or building of a particular quality in a particular area. They can give you an answer over the phone. The third way to evaluate or appraise a home or piece of investment real estate is called the income approach. This is used for properties that generate income, and it's expressed as a rate of return on equity, or return on the amount that you put up out of your own pocket. Sometimes this is called the return on cash invested. To use the income approach, you add up all the expenses associated with owning a piece of property, including mortgage payments, taxes, and all other charges payable that are associated with home ownership, such as homeowners association, condominium fees, extra charges for garbage collection, and so on. You then add the regular costs of maintenance, such as painting, replacement of appliances, which you need to do every 7 years, and any upkeep or any expenses that the owner is responsible for. You take all these costs and expenses together, then you deduct this total of expenses from the income you can generate by renting the property to get a net figure. You divide your equity investment into the net figure to get your rate of return. This is the way all commercial property is appraised and evaluated, and it is the way that residential property, including homes, should be evaluated as well. This method may sound complicated up to now, but it's actually quite simple. Let me give an example. In 1975, I purchased a condominium unit for $36,000, with $1,200 down and payments of $300 per month. It was a great deal because the developer wanted to sell the property and get out, and I had a good credit rating. Before the condominium was completed, I rented it out for $275 per month. Now, this was a below-market rent, but I wanted it rented from the first day. I found a solid tenant, and I was willing to absorb a $25 per month loss in exchange for the security of having a long-term tenant from the time the condominium was ready for occupancy. After 6 months, I raised the rent to $300. At this rent, with the tenant paying all other expenses, I was now breaking even. I continued to raise the rent by $25 per month every 6 months. By the end of the second year, I had increased the rent to $350 per month. I was now earning $50 per month multiplied times 12 months, or $600 per year on my total investment of $1,200 for the down payment. If I added back the $150 that I had absorbed when the rent was below the monthly payments, my total investment was $1,350, upon which I was receiving $600 per year return on equity. This worked out to a return on that single condominium investment of 44% per annum. This was my return on cash invested. You can see that with these kinds of returns possible in rental property, it doesn't take very long to build up a substantial equity. There are not many investments where you can get 44% per annum, plus depreciation and tax benefits on a solid, safe investment with virtually no downside and the investment increasing in value each year. One rule of residential real estate is that over time a house should rent for approximately 1% of its market value. Put another way, it should sell for about 100 times its monthly rent. This ratio holds true until you get into very expensive homes where it begins to make no sense at all. Let me repeat that rule. When you are buying a home to rent out, the rule of residential real estate is that it should rent for about 1% of its market value, or conversely, it will sell for 100 times its monthly rent. Many people buy $150,000 and $200,000 homes in areas where the highest rent that they can get is $800 to $1,000, and they wonder why it is that they can't make a profit renting the property out to someone else. When you find a house that you decide is priced right because it has good potential to be upgraded and improved, you make an offer. The best deal for you is a small cash down payment with a first mortgage of 80 to 90% of the purchase price and the seller agreeing to carry the balance over 5 to 7 years at an attractive, which means low rate of interest. A good strategy when making an offer is to lowball at first. This means that you offer about 70% of the asking price, even though most houses in normal markets will sell between 80 and 90% of the list price. Sometimes, for reasons you don't know, the seller will accept a ridiculously low offer. So always make a low offer to begin with. You can always increase the offer later if it's rejected. Take your time in negotiating a real estate purchase. Your patience can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Never allow yourself to be rushed into buying a piece of real estate of any kind. Once you have purchased the house and taken possession, you want to fix it up as quickly as possible, putting your money where it goes the furthest in raising the rental or resale value of the house. These are the key places to invest in renovating and upgrading. First, top of the list is good quality paint, using designer colors like white or off-white, cream, beige, or peach. A designer color is one that is acceptable to almost everyone, especially the woman who will be the key decision maker in the home purchase or rental. You will increase the value of the home by as much as $5 for every $1 that you invest on paint. The second place to invest in a home that you are fixing up to rent or resell is in upgrading or replacing the carpets. You always put better quality carpets in high traffic areas and cheaper carpets in bedrooms, dens, and basements. New carpets will increase your value by as much as $4 for every $1 that you invest in carpet. There are some key rules with regard to purchasing and installing new carpets. First of all, use neutral colors. Stick with beige, salmon, cream, or white. Select colors that go with anyone's furniture and which are acceptable to almost any taste. The second rule is that you should use only one color throughout the entire house or apartment. Use the same color in the living room, bathrooms, and bedrooms. This gives the house an overall uniform look of quality, cleanliness, and attractiveness, and increases the perceived value and the speed at which you can sell it or rent it out. The third place to invest prior to renting or resale is into landscaping. Clean up the outside yard completely so that it makes a good first impression when a renter or purchaser arrives to see it. Look at this house through the eyes of a prospective purchaser at all times. Do everything possible to create what is called curb appeal. When the purchaser pulls up to the house, to the curb, the first thing you want them to do when they see the house is to say, "Wow, that looks attractive." Experience shows that you can get a payoff in increased rental or resale value of as much as $25 back for every $1 that you put into cleaning up the yard. In other words, if you spend $1,000 to landscape the front and clean it up so that it is attractive, this can increase the curb appeal and the value of the house by as much as $25,000. When a person is buying a house, one of the first things they think is, what will my friends and family say when they drive up to this house? If they think that their family and friends will be impressed when they see this house because it's freshly painted with the yard cleaned up and looking attractive, they'll be much more likely to pay the kind of price that you want to get for it, or to rent it quickly at a high rental rate. The fourth place to invest in fixing up a house is in fireplaces. According to real estate appraisers, fireplaces add $1.23 in value for every $1 you spend. This means that you get a 23% increase in value for every dollar that you invest. This is a good investment and a good return. This is true even if you put in a false gas fireplace. Any kind of fireplace increases the value in excess of the amount that you spend. This is the sort of thing that assures that you will get all your money back and more besides when you sell the house. The fifth thing that you can do when renovating a home is to add a full bathroom. This increases the value by $1.10 for every dollar that you spend. The more bathrooms that a house possesses, the more attractive it is to the purchaser or renter. The sixth thing that you can do to increase the attractiveness and value of a home is to put new siding on the outside. New siding increases the value of the home on a dollar-for-dollar basis. For every dollar that you put into new siding, you'll get $1 back when you sell. But the most important factor is that the home will sell faster, and you will realize your return on investment sooner with new siding rather than without. The seventh thing that you can do to increase the attractiveness of the house is a minor kitchen remodel. New appliances, paint, and wallpaper in the kitchen will give you back 90 cents in added value for every dollar you spend. It will also increase the speed at which you rent the house or resell it to a purchaser. A major kitchen remodel will give you 89 cents back for every dollar you spend. It may not be a great investment in terms of your return, but sometimes you need to invest in remodeling the kitchen to enhance and protect your investment in the rest of the house. Now, some improvements don't pay off. Everything else that you might do to a house, aside from the 7 improvements listed above, will add less than 90 cents per dollar that you spend. Sometimes improvements will yield much less. For example, new roofing adds only 80 cents in value for every dollar you invest. Skylights add only 75 cents in value for every dollar you spend. Adding a wooden deck adds only 72 cents in value. Remodeling the bathroom adds only 75 cents. Installing a swimming pool adds only 32 cents for every dollar you spend on the pool. In fact, many houses are considered less attractive because of the upkeep and maintenance required by a swimming pool. So don't put in a swimming pool with the thought that you're going to increase the value. It may actually backfire on you. Once you've purchased a home, if there's repair work that needs to be done on plumbing, electrical, or carpentry, you'll have to do these as well. You should make a detailed calculation of how much you'll have to spend to renovate the house before you make an offer in the first place. You then use your list of needed repairs and their costs to get the seller to come down in price. By the way, there are experts who will walk through a house and do this for you for a very small amount. The better prepared you are with your list of necessary improvements, the more likely you are to drive a good bargain. Never forget that you make your money by buying right, and you realize your profit by selling right. Once you've completed the facelift on the house inside and out, you're now ready to refinance, sell, or rent out and move on to the next project. Financial success in real estate basically comes from leverage, which is the use of borrowed money to multiply your return on your equity. This is often called OPM, or other people's money. Your success comes not only from leverage, but from super leverage, which is based on 5 key elements. Number 1, get the lowest price possible. Get a low price relative to the market. The lower the price that you can get relative to what the market will pay for it, the more money you will make on your investment, and the better you'll be able to leverage your money. The second ingredient for super leverage is good terms. Sometimes terms are as important or even more important than the price. You can often pay more if you can get better terms. Better terms usually mean a low interest rate and a low payment. Many people say that the key to real estate is location, location, location. And they're right. But the key to success in real estate investment is terms, terms, terms. The third way for you to get super leverage in a real estate purchase is for the vendor or seller to take back a second mortgage so that you have little or no cash of your own in the investment. Just think, if you only pay $1,000 down on a $100,000 house, and you can sell the house for $105,000 after everything and make $5,000 on your investment, that's a 500% return in whatever time period you're talking about. That is called super leverage, and it is quite common. The fourth key to super leverage is fast and aggressive upgrading of the property. Remember, time is valuable. Time is money. The faster you upgrade and turn over the property, the higher will be your return on your investment. And the fifth key to super leverage is refinancing and cashing out, which means getting your money back and owning the property with little or no investment. Let me give you an example of refinancing and cashing out. Let's say you buy a $100,000 house. You pay $20,000 down, and get an $80,000 first mortgage. You then quickly go to work to upgrade, renovate, and refurbish the house. As a result of new paint, carpets, and landscaping, you can quickly rent it out for $1,200 per month. If you then get an independent appraisal, an appraiser will probably put a value of 100 times the rental rate on the house, or $120,000. You can then go to a bank or mortgage company and refinance the house by putting a new mortgage on it for $100,000. With this $100,000, you pay out the old mortgage of $80,000, pay back the $20,000 that you put in as a down payment, and now you own the $120,000 house free and clear, with none of your own money invested. By refinancing, you have taken all your money out of the house. The tenant will then go on to making the payments on the mortgage, leaving an extra $200 to $400 per month of positive cash flow into your pocket with no investment of your own left in the deal. It is called super leverage, where you finance out and end up owning the house free and clear. Once you've learned how to do this, as the result of study, skill, and experience, you can then repeat this process over and over. I've met people who have done this for 30 and 40 and 50 houses over a 6 to 10 year period, ending up owning all the houses free and clear with a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month net cash flow as a result of starting with very little and following these guidelines. The key to long-term success in real estate is net, unencumbered, free cash flow from the property over time. Your goal is to build a real estate portfolio that gives you a steady flow of income, tax benefits, increased equity, and value appreciation for the indefinite future. As in any business, real estate investment requires an enormous amount of time, energy, dedication, courage, and persistence. Not only that, you must really enjoy the ownership and trading of real estate if you're going to succeed at it. You must be willing to put your head down for several years, work hard, wrestle with unruly bankers and sellers, negotiate, grind, compromise continually, and fight with difficult tenants who often feel that all landlords are fair game. However, if you persevere in spite of all these challenges, one day you could wake up with a substantial portfolio of income-producing properties, a healthy cash flow, and financial independence for life. Now, here are 3 exercises for you. Number 1, make a decision today to get into the game. Find a property that meets the requirements and conditions laid out in this session, and then make your move. Make your first offer. 2, decide today to read everything you can on real estate. You can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. And 3, resolve to buy at least one property each year and then fix it up, refinance it, rent it or lease it out, sell it, hold on to it, or trade it for another piece of property. You only learn by doing.